Hello, students. Welcome to the class. And today in this class, I'm going to teach you Chief Seattle's speech. Now, talking about Chief Seattle, this speech was considered to be a very popular speech, and it was delivered in Washington in the year 1854 and in Squamish language. Now, the reason why this speech was so popular, the reason was this speech had a message of reconciliation and friendship to the white people. Seattle spoke about the ecological responsibilities and respect for the native people. He felt that their hostilities should end. He never wanted actually a war between the black and the whites. Therefore, he always wished to live in harmony. He believed and he expected that the white chief should take the responsibility of protecting the native people, and therefore the native people in return agreed to live on a marked place for them, and he accepted this proposition made by the white people as it appeared to be a just one. Now, he was slight apprehensive. He had some fear in his heart, and therefore he had put the condition before the whites that the natives should be allowed to visit the graves of their ancestors whenever they wanted to visit. So, by this we can see that through his speech, he has basically put forward the respect for elders and value of traditions of their race. Now let's know more about the author, where I would like to tell you that the author was born in the year 1786 near Blake Island, Washington, and his actual or the real name in the Lushootseed language was Seahat. Okay, Seahat. Now, even the whites found it nearly impossible to pronounce. So, this was the pronunciation of the author's name. Now, let me tell you about his mother. Seattle's mother was Shulitza, okay? And she was a Duwamish. Now, Duwamish, if I say Duwamish was a tribe at that time. Okay? It's a tribe. So, Seattle's mother belonged to a Duwamish tribe. While on the contrary, his father, whose name was Shuaib, he belonged to a Squamish tribe. So therefore, since his mother was a Duwamish and his father was Squamish tribe, he grew up speaking both Duwamish and Squamish dialects. Okay? And at a very young age, he earned his reputation as a leader, as a great speaker, skilled diplomat, and a warrior. He had defeated many groups or tribal enemy and tried to raid them. Okay? And talking about his personality, he was very tall, almost 6 feet tall, and broad. And therefore, the Hudson Bay Company traders gave him the nickname Legros. In other words, Legros means the big guy. He was so tall and hefty. That is why. Okay? Then, coming to his death, he died in the year 1866 at the age of 1880. And 1 year after the city named for him, that is Seattle, he passed a law making it illegal for Indians to live in Seattle. So this was about the author, and let me tell you something about this chapter and the speech by Chief Seattle. But before that, let me tell you, this is a piece of information that this particular speech was written in 4 versions. And in your books, the first version is explained. Okay? And this version 1 was written and published by Dr. Henry A. Smith. It was published in the year 1887. So the version you're going to study about Chief Seattle's speech is by Dr. Henry A. Smith. Okay, this is that translation by him. The other version was written by poet William Arrowsmith, and third version was written by Ted Perry and all those things. So that information is not required for you. But yes, you need to know that which version are you studying and how many versions are there. There are 4 versions, and you are studying the first version written by Dr. Henry A. Smith. Clear? Now, with that, let me tell you something, a glance to this chapter, where the chapter first talks about nature has a great role to play in Chief Seattle life and that of his tribe. Okay, then he talks about the youth, and then here it mentions about how he refers to the great chief of Washington as good father. Then he talks about the gods of white, who is very different from the god of the red Indians. Okay, the values and traditions, everything were a little different from each other, and how the red Indians considered the land, culture, tradition very sacred. And then he also speaks about the way world is progressing and how the whites and the reds will have a common fate. Okay, and lastly he discusses about how the red Indians agreed to sell their land only if the land is considered sacred and they have visiting rights over their lands. So this is just a story in glance. I would like to just detail about few things about the points which I have mentioned. Okay, so I would like to tell you, students, that here Chief Seattle, who had delivered this speech, is basically trying to deliver this speech to whom? You should know that. Chief Seattle, who had delivered the speech at Washington, I have told you, he actually wanted to address it to the governor Isaac Stevens. Okay, and Seattle, he found it as a very rare opportunity to express his love for his land. Therefore, he talks about a treaty that was signed between them, a land treaty, okay, between the United States government and the Native American tribes of the area in the Washington Territory. And therefore, he had written the speech as a reaction to the proposition. I told you the proposition, or what was proposed, okay, by the whites. So proposition of the white settlers to buy the land of these red Indians and then settle them on a small part of it. So this was the basic setting, in fact, you could say. And then we can talk about what actually contained in the speech. A little elaboration in a short way I could do that, so that you understand before we study the chapter in detail. So here he actually says that there was a time when Seattle is also the name of the place. Okay, Seattle's people covered the land, but the time was long back. Okay, the tribe were considered to be great at that time, but now when we think, or when they think about that, it's like a mournful memory which is left for them. Okay, the youth is, but they say that is impulsive, and the young men often they grow very angry soon. Okay, at some times in real or imaginarily they may be going wrong somewhere, and often sometimes they turn out to be cruel or relentless, means they become determined, they're not wanting to change or bend with the situation. So it was difficult to handle the youth at that time. Okay, and the old men and old women were unable to stop them, means even if the old parents of such youth wanted to stop them, they could not stop them, they could not restrain them or refrain them from their actions. Therefore, it was when the white men began to push the native forefathers to the west side. Okay, but he hoped that the hostilities between them may never return, as there would be everything to lose and nothing to gain. Because we know that war only brings destruction, and only we are going to lose everything, and there's nothing to gain in war. So, therefore, this is what Seattle hoped, that the hostilities between them may never return. Okay? Now, Seattle referred to George Washington as our great and good father. Now, why did he consider or regard him or refer him as great and good father? Because promised the natives that if they do as he desires, he would protect them. This is why he called George Washington. It will be mentioned in the chapter. That is why I'm giving all these few references and few important things, so that when we actually read the chapter, you remember these. Okay, therefore, George Washington was referred as our great and good father by Seattle, because he had promised to protect them. Okay, then what did he do? He tried to send greetings of friendship and goodwill and thanks to the white chief for their friendship in return. Means when he extended a hand of friendship, the white chief also extended their hand of friendship in return. And for this, he was thankful for this gesture of theirs. So his people were many. They were like the grass covered in vast prairies. Prairies are actually, you must have studied in geography, these are grasslands. So now here we are talking about the comparison done, that the number of people in their native place, actually they were many in number, as the grass of the prairies are covered, the grassland is covered with grass. Similarly were the population of their native people. The white chief had sent word that he wished to buy these land which they considered to be sacred. But then he promised one thing, that he will be allowing them to live comfortably. Okay, and therefore he seemed to be very generous and good enough, very thoughtful kind of person. Therefore, seeing this gesture, he wanted to thank the white chief. Okay, so but I told you there's always an apprehension, or you sometimes have some fear in your heart. Okay, because this particular place which the whites wanted to take had the ashes of their ancestors, and it was a sacred place for the natives. They were not bothered about any other piece of land. Definitely, it was their home, but they were concerned about, I could say, the resting place of their ancestors, that is the graves. And therefore, the natives dead could never forget. The natives could not forget the dead people of theirs and this beautiful world that is their native land. Okay? However, finally, what happens is he agrees that the white man's proposition seemed to be fair to him, and the natives would accept it and would do as the whites wanted them to do. Okay? So he agreed finally to accept this suggestion of the white man. But as I told you, there was a little doubt. So he placed a condition before the white chief. He said that the native people should not be denied of the privilege of visiting at any time the tombs of their ancestors, friends, and children. Therefore, he appealed to the white man to be just and deal kind to his people. Okay, so this was a little summary of the Chief Seattle speech. I hope you will understand, because I have just tried to narrate in a story form so that you may understand it in an easier way. So please go through this class, whatever I have explained in this class, go through it. And I'm sure that when we go through the chapter, when I start with the chapter, you will understand what is the main content of the entire speech. So till then, students, thank you. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.